Welcome, everybody. I'm Rick DiClemente with StarSelf.com, and this is Astrology Unplugged. This is, I believe, episode 62. And it came to me the other night while thinking about what to do on the weekly show that it might help to explain the major cycles that we're in. Cycles, sub-cycles, other sub-cycles, because it's very confusing even for astrologers, and if you're a semi-astrologer, it's very confusing. What's it mean that the Saturn return is going on while Uranus is opposite Uranus? And you have to differentiate what's going on in the sky, transit versus transit hitting your natal chart. Two different things. You got to keep these straight. And one of the things that's real important is you need to learn the speed of these planets. So tonight is another episode of Astrology Unplugged. If you've not joined us before, it is what I call a fireside chat on astrology without the fire. But I actually have a way of putting the fire on there, and I'm exploring that soon too. We meet every Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern, and if you would like the link, I know you're watching on YouTube in replay. If you'd like the link, just go to my website, starself.com, and the links are there to join us live for free every Thursday at 8 o'clock. Okay, now, I really don't have much to say because we're going through so much politically. I don't want to get lost and all that, but I do want to repeat, and I don't know what kind of studying or work you're going to do. I think you've got some glimpses, but you do need to have an idea how fast these planets move. Liza and I can pivot these planets in our head, and a lot of that is because for years before computers, we did it all by paper, and we did it all by looking at the book. So we'll start. We're also going to talk about Eris tonight, who's, I think, really responsible for a lot of what's going on. I'm not going to deal with Eris at first. I definitely deal with Pluto as a planet. Pluto has an orbit about every 256 years. Pluto is very oval in its elliptical orbit. So it's in some signs for 13 years and other signs for 30 years. So the one we just had of Pluto in Sagittarius was, I think, 13 years, and now it's in Capricorn for 15 years. Okay, that's very normal, and that's why one age of Pluto is longer or shorter than another. Neptune is about 15 years, approximately, per sign. Uranus is very timely. Uranus is 7 years each sign, 84 years around. And therefore, Uranus links up very well with Saturn, because Saturn is 28 years around. And 3/28 equal 84, which is one Uranus. So you commonly have a lot of Saturn transits at the same time that you have Uranus. Chiron's very weird. Chiron is 51 years, but it's on a really bent elliptical orbit. So when you have Chiron opposite Chiron, it's completely different than when I have it per sun sign. But for almost everybody, Chiron returns around age 51. We're not going to go into great detail here, except the fact that Jupiter is about 1 year per sign, which is an easy clock to watch. Mars is about 2 years around, 2 years around, 2 years around, etc. So you need to get this in your head, and I'll be repeating it through the night. I'm going to take my time. If you get lost, raise your hand. I'll be glad to stop and address your questions. Okay. First of all, the hardest subject of all is the precession of the equinoxes. I've been looking online today at a lot of different examples. This is why you got the age of Aquarius that's coming. Not the 1967 song by the Fifth Dimension. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius, because that was really not true. It sort of was true, but we change ages about every 2,100 years. So it was generally true. But the words they use when the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter lands with Mars, it was all done poetically, but has no basis in reality astrologically. The ages are hard to understand, but let me try to explain this to you, because you need to understand this. The ages change about every 2,000 years. And apparently, around the time of Christ, the two zodiacs that you hear about were in sync. The sidereal zodiac and the tropical zodiac, which meant that on March 21st, the first day of spring, when you would look off the eastern horizon at sunrise, just before sunrise, you would have seen the constellation Pisces and Aries, rather than that gap there. Pisces and Aries, the beginning and end of the zodiac. The sidereal zodiac, the astrological zodiac, they were the same. That would not happen again till the year 26,000. In the year 0, let's make it 0 just for math's sake. On the morning of the equinox, the spring equinox, you would look out and you would see the gap between Pisces and Aries, the actual constellation. But astrology has nothing to do with the constellations. The constellations are for the astronomers. Astrology is based on the calendar. The moment we call spring. That's what it's all based on in Western astrology. In the year 72 plus, they've already gotten out of sync by 1 degree. So in the year 72, when you looked off of that moment, March 21st, you would have seen the 29th degree of Pisces because it goes backward. Astrologers always see 0 Aries because we cheat. We cheat every year. We call 0 Aries the moment of spring. It's got nothing to do with lining up with the constellations. And every 72 years, it gets backwards one chunk at a time. So since Christ is born, we've been in the age of Pisces, going backward from 30 to 29 to 28. And we're now at the stage, we're just about entering the age of Aquarius because we're backing up. Now, when you go through these ages, it's a cast upon the whole planet. It's the general mood. It's talk about a wide brush stroke. Hello there, Ginger. It's so nice to see you. So nice to see you. Okay. So no one knows, literally nobody knows exactly when the age of Aquarius is. They argue it already happened. Some argue it's 50 years from now. I happen to think it's about 25 years from now. It doesn't matter because when you're talking about these kind of signs, you do have a cusp. In other words, there is a blending of this Piscean energy and this Aquarian energy, and you can feel it in the skies, but those two energies in particular are very difficult to separate because they're very similar, powerful universal energy. So the reason for this is because the Earth wobbles around the axis. Okay, so if you were to shine a light from the axis of the poles, it would intersect one sign of the zodiac, and it would trace a circle in the heavens 26,000 years around, and it would repeat. So in the year 13,000, we will be halfway. On spring, it'll still be 0 Aries for us astrologer cheaters, and you will be lined up with the 0 degrees of Libra, halfway around. That's how it works. I'm not going to confuse you more. If you want diagrams, go to YouTube, type in the precession of the equinoxes, and you can see some lovely diagrams. Now, what does this mean? It means that around the age of 4000 BC, we had just entered backward into the age of Taurus. And we were in Taurus from 4000 BC to 2000 BC. Cut me a break. We're going to chop it off in whole numbers. And those are the ages of great farming, Taurian things, communities based on farming, connection to the land. The general mood, the general impression to the collective mind. I'm not going to go into this great detail. And I meant to do this and I forgot. I do want to impress upon you, if you have not purchased this book, It is probably the one of the greatest books you could ever have in astrology, written by Richard Tarnas, Tarnas, and I know Mark will have it on your screen in seconds. And he's got two famous books, and this one is the astrological Bible called Cosmos and Psyche. Cosmos and Psyche. He took him 30 years to write it. He's a phenomenal astrologer, and he maps out all these ages and sub-ages. I'm getting a call from Verizon support. Okay. So anyhow, I really suggest that book. He takes his time. He maps out all the wars that happened, all the major periods. He tracks Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto and what they did in the last 2,000 years. It's not a book for casual reading, but it just blows your mind. If you have any doubts of astrology, this is the book to read. Okay. So then we backed up into the age of Aries, which was 2000 BC up until the time of Christ. And you notice it's much more warlike Aries energy. It's much more male-dominated energy. Then the time of Christ came upon us, and we entered back into a whole new zodiac. What a better time to come into a whole new zodiac than the time of the Savior. The fish, the two fish of Pisces, you see the two fish aligned with Jesus. So we entered an age of peace. Of course, it wasn't peace, but peace was impressed upon us, upon the collective mindset, as much as we could handle. Of course, we're all still struggling to get through first grade, even in 2017. So we've been in the age of Pisces for 2,000 years. We're on the verge of going into Aquarius. Now, the difference between Pisces and Aquarius, and I've written a lot about this in my book, The Exquisite Zodiac, is the following. Aquarius is an air sign. It is the highest dimension of mind. And if you know Aquarians, they're always up in the air somewhere. They're always filling in the mental blanks. They're always doing the mental puzzle. This is what they're great at. They're very solid mentally. They may not be right, but that's what they're doing. And that's why they're so hard to argue with. Because they've spent their whole life building their mental picture of how things go. But it's mental. So they pierce through the cloud and they go as high as mentality goes. Once you pierce that cloud, then you're into the age of Pisces. And at the age of Pisces, it's all nothingness, it's all clouds, it's all feeling, it's all emotion, it's boundlessness, and they don't care what you think. Because they don't care, because it doesn't matter. Pisces are not ignorant and say it doesn't matter. They say it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter. Because being is being. This is why it's hard to differentiate the two, because they're both very non-judgmental, they're both very tolerant. One is very cerebral, one is very emotional. And Pisces, without a doubt, is the hardest sign to be. Because the requirements of you to be a non-self is really hard to do when you're trying to be a self and your instincts are to be a non-self. This is the basis of my book, The Exquisite Zodiac, which, by the way, is available on my website, starself.com. And if you can't afford it, there's a link there to give you a free PDF. You can get the book downloaded for free on the PDF format. So, we've been in the age of Pisces since Christ. Now, one of the things that's amazing, no matter which sign, and I'm really interested in writing a book about this, I don't think there's ever really been a good book about the contrast between all the 12 gaps. Let's study the gap between Aquarius and Pisces. Let's study the gap between Gemini and Cancer. I think it's really critical, and we tried to stress that in our book. So, backing out of Pisces into Aquarius is why you're seeing, what are you seeing here? Everything's high tech. Nobody in the world would think of giving a kid a kiss and a sweater for Christmas. It's got to be something with buttons on it. You know? My God, we're out of our mind with technology. It's going to solve everything. And we know it doesn't work. But that's the Aquarian theme. High tech, high tech, high tech, high tech. But moreover, even more important, Aquarius is the sign of friendliness. They're very idealistic. Pisces is all about love. Aquarius is all about true friendship. Think of the Aquarians you know. 90% of the Aquarians you know are for real your friends. They might be flaky, but they're your friends, and they're loyal. And a lot of the zodiac talks about being, here's my friend. Not like an Aquarian friend. Yeah, they're a little distant, etc. But anyhow, that's what the ages are about. And in the year 2000, we will back up into the age of Capricorn. So that's the biggest cycle that we're in. All right? Now, next comes, I got to talk about Chiron. I'm sorry, about Eris. And I'm really loath to do this because we just don't know enough about her yet, Eris. She was discovered in 2003. She was discovered in 2005, depending on how you look at it. Eris is beyond Pluto. Pluto's 256 years. Eris is 500 and something, 540. Eris, it will be in the sign of Aries for 120 years. I was born with Eris around 5 degrees of Aries. Now it's at 21. So it's gone halfway through Aries in my lifetime. Now, we don't know enough about her. We know that she got the right name from mythology. But she has to do with the male side of females. Do you see any of that lately? The aggressive side of femininity. Hello. Her brother is Aries. The rise of the feminine. Now, when you notice a planet or find a planet, it's critical. It's not happenstance. I told my buddy once, oh, we noticed Pluto in 1930. And boy, everything became so Plutonian. He said, oh, that's ridiculous. It's because you just got a telescope that was strong enough. I said, no, we found the telescope because the Pluto was discovered. That's why we found the telescope, not vice versa. He thought I was out of my mind, and there's no convincing him. So anyhow, when a planet's discovered, it means the psyche is ready for the energy. In the 1700s, we discovered Uranus. It's a great scientific, Uranus is the scientific planet. We had great scientific gains at that time. In the 1800s, we discovered Neptune. We have gases and great advancement with gases, gas technology in 1800s, gas warfare. 1930, we discover Pluto. Here comes Hitler within a year or so. Here comes the plutonium, uranium, atomic weapons. Okay? We find, we're ready to see. We don't find, we're ready to see. Because the planet is just another object inside of our consciousness. It's not a planet out there. 1977, November, we find and discover Chiron. 2 months later, I became an astrologer. Who was the first astrologer in history, mythologically? Chiron. Chiron is a centaur, known for being somewhat bestial, but he was one of the really elite ones. He had a lot of class. He was much different than the masses of the centaurs. Half horse body, half human body. And in 77, if you're a healer, think about it, look at it, and study it. Healers went crazy. It was when healing started to become something that us muggles could do. It wasn't just the doctors anymore. And from 77 on, you could just see this crescendo up till now. And every other person you know, I'm a Reiki master, I'm a Reiki master, I'm a Reiki master. All kind of healing going on, and it's marvelous. So from 77 is when Chiron hit the mentality, the psyche of the human race. 2003, 2005, we get Eris. Some guy in his backyard found him, two guys with their telescopes. They didn't know what to call it for a couple of years, and finally they called it Xena for a while. In 2005, she was named Eris. Eris is about the angry female. She wants what's hers. I don't know enough about her. I'm not going to speak a lot about her. Most astrologers are not, because we just don't know enough. When you discover a major planet, you can't just open your mouth and start blabbing to make yourself look smart. We just don't know enough. And we will know when we have enough experiences to look back and then know. We can now know about Pluto by looking back what's happened since 1930. Well, my friends, I ask you, what the hell do you think you've been seeing since 2003 and 2005, except chaos and discord? And Eris is the god of discord. I'm one of these rare astrologers, possibly. I don't believe that there are bodies out there floating in space that are all Trump himself. No comment. I'm not one of these that believe that planets, I just got a voicemail, can't do all these things. That these planets have negative connotations, that they have negative, that they're basically negative at their own source, because I believe all things are good at their source. So anyhow, this is the reason, the main reason that you're seeing Eris so strong is not only that we just saw her and found her in 2003 and 2005, but recently because she conjuncted Uranus. Uranus is in its 7-year path through Aries, has been in its 7-year path through Aries. It's going into Taurus in May, and they've been together lately. Uranus, the planet of absolute chaos, with the goddess of discord. Well, have you noticed any of that lately? Discord has its place, mainly to break up doldrums. When something's already unstable, you don't want a lot of discord. If I go visit Mark in the hospital, Mark's not feeling good, it's not the time for me to bring a loud party into his room. And as I've been saying all along, men, give it up, sew your lips together, including me, and let the women take over, because the men just screw everything up. I don't care what people say. We screw everything up because we got to have a sword involved or a dick, right? It's got to be a dick or a sword. I said it on national TV. I don't care. Hold your ears. And it doesn't work. We need the love of the feminine. The love of the feminine. To be inclusive. And to me, it was beautiful to see the UN today put down the American statement that we declare Jerusalem the capital of them. I heard the other one the other day that the Mexicans have declared that Dallas will be the capital of the United States. Hear that one? Mexicans decided that. Anyhow, getting serious once again. So Eris is with us. She is going to be, you can just type in Eris ephemeris into Google to find her. She's also findable on the software that I use, Eris ephemeris, and you can track where she's been. Like I said, in the 50s, she was at 5 degrees, and now she's at 21 of Aries. So, but the big thing, and it was monumental, was the Uranus conjunction to Aries. And this is one reason people voted for Trump, because they wanted to blow everything up. Well, they sure did, and it's sure being blown. Okay, so you've got that age going on. Now remember, the age of Aquarius is a big, long 2,000-year process. The age of Aries is a 500-year process. And as we go along, we will find out more and more about Eris. Now, what do we come to? We come to the phenomenal Pluto return. In the United States, this is probably when I'll point my finger at John, put him on the spot, and he'll get mad at me. Pluto's around 26 degrees of Capricorn in July 4th, 1776. You got to get it straight. A transiting body and a chart, a natal chart. They're two different things. All a natal chart is a frozen moment of time with the transits. July the 4th, 1776, Pluto was around 26 degrees of Capricorn. Pluto has gone all the way around. It's now back around 15, 16, 17, 18, and it's going to conjunct in the year 2020. And when you read Richard Tarnas's books, he gives at least a 15-degree allowance called the orb, because these planets are so powerful. And through history, he has shown us that when these planets get within 15 degrees of each other, events start to concur with their natures. Hello, iPad de Waldemar. Nice to see you. So, out of all this stuff, now we're in a Pluto return. What are you seeing? Okay, in conjunction with the fact that the United States chart, the sun is at 12 degrees of Cancer. Pluto has been in Capricorn, opposite. Pluto the last couple of years has been directly opposite our sun, which is an identity crisis. The sun gets hit by Pluto. Well, Pluto's very simple. You're either walking your walk or else you're trying to fake it. And Pluto won't let you fake it. Period. You want a long, lengthy essay? Go find one. I wrote a bunch of them. You're walking your walk, you're talking your talk, or you're trying to fake it. That's what's going on the planet now in America. The reason it's affecting the whole world, see, the rest of the world is not having Pluto opposite the sun. The rest of the world is not having a Pluto return. The rest of the world has Pluto going through Capricorn, yes. But the reason that it's affecting the whole planet is we are the world. When the leader of a corporation's chart gets transited, it happens to the whole corporation. When the leader of a country's chart is transited, it happens to the embodiment. So what happens to us happens to the world. Because we were shaking now, but we were the leader of the representative of the planet. Pluto is very simple, and you're hearing it all around now. What are we really? Have we lost our, what's the word, dear? Have we lost our mission statement? People come to me about their businesses and stuff, and they want to talk about this, and they want to go into that detail and that detail, blah, 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 blah. And all I say to them is this: what was your mission statement when you started? Okay, have you steered off course? Well, yeah, we'll get back on course. Goodbye. They're looking for a reason. Planet didn't knock them off course. They did. Get back on course. And that's why you've all seen with Pluto, when you get away from your heart, that's your mission statement. You're going to get screwed up. You're going to lose your job. You're going to get sick. You're going to have poverty. You're going to have a bad car. You're going to have a bad job, all this stuff. And when you get back on course, things start to work out. Right? That's how it works. Now, don't confuse this with a couple other things. Pluto opposite the sun in the United States chart, even though it's past now, we're still going through an identity crisis. Who are we? And we're starting to see that we can't rest on our laurels any longer. Yeah, we won the war in 1945. Thank God. But we've been policing the world since, and they're not happy about it. Our 900 military bases. When Pluto went into Capricorn, there's a whole different story. When Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008, see, I'm battling everybody because I think the Americans go month, day, year, which makes no sense, and the people in Europe go day, month, year, which makes less sense. We should always go year, month, day. Then every day the number goes up one. Don't you hear people tell you stories? Well, in July 4th and then you sit there and wait. You got to figure out what year they're talking about. Say the year first, then the month, then the day. It makes sense. So I'm campaigning for that. 2008, January 25th at 9:30 at night on a Friday. I was giving a talk, and all of a sudden I was prompted, and I nailed some woman to the wall. I don't even know why I did. I was talking to some Capricorn woman, and I knew exactly what time it was going in at 9:30 or 9, whatever it was, at night, 9:30. I nailed her to the wall, and I just said, "You're not doing your thing." You wonder why it's not working, and it just came out of me. And she was like nailed to the wall, psychically. And it was exactly right. Pluto went into Capricorn. And one of the reasons it was so intense was because of the contrast. It had been in flippin' Sagittarius since we've been waiting for Windows. 1995. We'll all get in line and we're going to get Windows. Woo! We're going to get Windows on our computer and the boxes will come and get big and get small. And we're all going to be fine in 1995 all the way to 2008. Every day in the mailbox, what do you get? Every day, all day long. Mail, credit card, mortgage. And everybody just got mortgage because it was living in for the future, robbing the future. Who cares? That's the Sagittarian quality. Boom! It all hit. It hit even before January of 08. The crash happened in 07. Because when you juxtapose the flippant nature, freedom-loving, fun-loving Sag next to the seriousness of Capricorn, something's got to give when those two signs cross. And believe me, I studied long and hard writing the Sagittarian chapter, and Sagittarians need to be the way they are. That's just the way they are. By God, you're right in between Scorpio and Capricorn. Somebody's got to cut them a break. Imagine that. Imagine being a Sag kid and you grew up with a Scorpio and a Capricorn. You're trying to have some fun. Of course, I'm being very generic now, okay? I don't want any nasty grams because I'm not going to read them anyway. I got a nice one today. I got a real nice one today. It said, about that gift certificate I've been wanting to purchase, and I've been having so much difficulty getting this money to go through. And I went onto your website today, and I have decided I do not want you reading for my friends. Have a nice Christmas. So I think they read some of my politics. But I don't care because I don't feel like I'm way out. I just want something. I want the kids to eat something. I want them to go to a doctor. I'm not trying to be radical here. Carve up the czar. Let the kids get to a doctor. Huh? Share a little bit. That's all I'm saying. Okay, I'll back off my rant now. So when Pluto went into Capricorn, not only did we have the contrast of coming out of Sag, we went into a 15-year cycle till 2023. From 2008 to 2023 of Pluto and Capricorn. I was born the Pluto and Leo generation. Each little generation has its qualities. My parents all had the greatest generation ever, had the Pluto and Cancer. And I was talking to my friends today about how you went all over town on your bicycle, and if you skinned your knee, some mother from some yard came out and put something on and gave you something to eat. And you just didn't think of the kids. You just went all day. You came home when it was supper time, and nobody worried about anybody. It was just so Cancerian. Look how we won World War II with the women working in the factories and Rosie the Riveter and all that. And then in 1941 became the Pluto and Leo generation, right? And we didn't want that anymore. We didn't want that pablum We're family first. Daddy's a shoemaker, and I got to be a shoemaker. We wanted individuality, and Mick Jagger stuck his tongue out. Ah! And there was your symbol of the Pluto and Leo generation. By God, I'm going to get hurt. So then we made total asses of ourselves, and what came along, all the Pluto and Virgo generation. They were embarrassed by us. They became yuppies. They were embarrassed by us. They cut their hair. They thought we were nuts. Then you went into the Virgo generation, which became very cold compared to the Pluto and Leo, free love. Then we went into Libra and then into Scorpio and into Sag, and now Pluto's in Capricorn. So this age is getting longer. This one's 15. So now we're going through the Pluto and Cancer times. I'm sorry, the Pluto and Capricorn times. And that's why I've been talking so much endlessly about Pluto and Capricorn ever since 2008. Liza and I started writing articles in 2005, 12 years ago. So you've got the Pluto return happening in the United States chart, which is going to be so difficult. And I'm not going to predict doom. But if you've got a very sick patient on the table, what have we been discovering for the last 9 years? Corruption, 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 cancer, 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 cancer. How much can the body take? And just like a cancer, what are a lot of Americans doing? What are a lot of Americans doing? As soon as my cancer popped up on the screen, we're putting our head in the sand. You get on Facebook, you read these outrageous things that are going on, how people are getting ripped off, and people want to turn their gaze away from it because they can take so much. But people are getting angry, and the women are getting angry. Thank Eris. Thank Eris. See, they're all going on at the same time. But remember, it's very simple. The more America decides consciously to become real and to accept responsibility for how we got to this point, the healthier we will be. That's a guarantee, and I can see Elgie's head going like that. She's a fine astrologer. And the more we do the opposite, hide our head in the sand, disown what we did to the American Indians, hide the fact that trickle-down economics doesn't work, hide from the truth. See, Pluto is really a wonderful planet. It's not just darkness. Pluto is the planet of evolution. And you either get on it or you get out. I've often used the analogy, you wake up in the morning and you always want to get on your little pony because you're really happy on your little pony. If you heard it before, well, you can hear it again. When you get up in the morning and the pony's gone, oh, where's my pony? He's so safe, and I feed him a little bit, and he's not too much to deal with. And there's this big-ass stallion there. There's this big, powerful stallion with smoke coming out, steam. Get on the stallion or get out of the game. That's what Pluto does. That's what Pluto does. It gets rid of you. Get on the stallion or get out. That's why when you look back at what's been happening since 2008, people have been being smudged out through disease or hardship or whatever. They're the ones that won't take ownership of their own karma. They won't take ownership of their life. They're trying to get somebody to do it for them. They're trying to shortcut. That's what Pluto's about. Now, here's the magic thing, and I've written an article. You may want to look it up. Maybe I'll send my librarian Mark after it, or John, on the website called Pluto Will Help You If You Try. I think it's something like that, John. Pluto will help you if you say yes. And what that means is you don't have to get up tomorrow. I've coached so many people through Pluto times. You don't have to get up tomorrow and save everything, but you got to try. You got to try to, well, I've not been good in this area, and I'll go get some help. And you start to face it. Then Pluto is miraculous. It helps you. It brings you. I remember one time I was just about out of my mind. I went through a bad period of time, and I really had a very bad time. And out of nowhere, this phenomenal psychologist came and grabbed me before I went over the edge. Saved my life. But that's because I got up off my butt and I looked. That's why one of the main things in astrology as a counselor, without a doubt, forget what house is ruled by what, is that you get up and you try to get past your dependency. You get up and you try to get past your codependency. That's the number one thing in astrology. That's why when my clients come back to me, oh, we broke up, but we're trying together. Oh, we broke up, but we need to get together, and we want to look in the charts. And I just say, I'm not looking at anything. It's not in the charts. Are you going to try to face your stuff? Are you going to try to deal with your stuff? Then you got a good chance. So these Pluto times can be helped, but you have to be willing, and you can see it in the United States now. You can see all these wonderful people, including you, that are starting these websites and these programs, and they're trying to do this kind of healing and that kind of healing and this information basis. And people are, like Eliza predicted years ago, they would have to come through grassroots campaigns, and it is. But if you keep riding the wave of that bottom line mentality, and the government's going to pay me what I need, well, forget it. So that's where Pluto opposite the sun comes in. Because we've got to redefine who we are. What does it really mean to be American? We know we're good people, and we also know every other country is good people too. Okay. So that's really the big story about the Pluto return, which could get a whole lot worse. And it's going to go on for quite a while, not just 2020. It's on now. It's going to go on at least 10 years. I didn't have much to research on it because I don't know many countries that are 256 years old. Anyhow, Cosmos and Psyche is the book you want to read by Richard Tarnas. So then, out of all these cycles, and I'll show you here, yes, I threw the planets away. I changed today's chart. Here's Neptune and here's Chiron, and I took the other stuff out of the way so it wouldn't confuse you. For the past 5 or 6 years, Neptune and Chiron have been traveling together. This is Chiron in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, and for a while, Jupiter was even with them. And that was just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And that's why I wrote for years that we were having this other side of the seesaw happen. All this tension and toughness with the Pluto stuff was being balanced by this rise in spiritual interest. And also, I don't care what you call me and think, I think they're up here helping us. I mean, UFOs are helping us. I mean, deities are helping us. And I'm a down-to-earth astrologer. I think the gods are helping us. I think our angels are helping us. I don't care what you call it. But they're interfering, they're interceding on our behalf, and they're worried, and they're helping us. So we see this wonderful spiritual growth thing that's going on now. At the same time, things are getting so low and terrible. We see them both going on. That was largely because of Chiron traveling together with Neptune. And don't kid yourself. Neptune is the boss. Neptune is the planet. She is the mama. She's very quiet, and she's extremely powerful, and she doesn't make any noise, and she's much more powerful than Neptune, Pluto can dream of. She's the God planet. She's the connection to God. She's the spirit planet. And then we went through a couple months ago, weirdness, and I couldn't figure it out. And I was talking to another astrologer who helped me with this. And he told me that it was Neptune. And I said, God, that explains it. And the reason it was Neptune was because at that time, Neptune and Chiron were separating. And you were getting the pure Neptune, and you were getting the pure Chiron. And Chiron, remember, is, in my mind, the ruler of Virgo. Put it to work, make it work. And you were getting the pure Neptune. And this is why I think months ago we all went through a confused phase of what the hell is going on? We were walking around in this kind of cloud. I got my head in the cloud. And when you get pure Neptune, that's how it is. Neptune wants you to come back to who you are, which is the oneness of all things. And that's a hell of a thing to go from this ego to that allness. You've read about it. So all that was going on, well, all the Pluto stuff was going on. Well, everything else is going on. Now the Chiron is moving on, moves much faster. Chiron's 51 years around. Neptune's 186 years around. Okay? Now we come into a really fascinating story, which I've told you many times. I'm going to tell you again, the Uranus-Pluto story. Let's go back in here. All right. There's going to be a final on this. Okay, Uranus and Pluto. We're going to go back to, I met a girl today, born near this date. October the 8th of 1965. Oh. I don't know why they're not exact. Something has happened. I thought that was it. Anyhow, close enough. Uranus and Pluto were together in Virgo, and they had been dancing with each other since 1960. Remember, Virgo is about from here over to about here. This is where Virgo is. And Uranus and Pluto, both explosive, powerful planets, were dancing with each other. Uranus, 7 years in the sign, Pluto about 20. So for 4 or 5 years, they were really getting close. And look what happened in 1964 in the sign of Virgo. Virgo, the LBJ, Virgo, the everyday man. Medicare, Medicaid, black rights, women's rights, voting rights, all that stuff came on the scene quickly. I was in school at the time. Look at those damn guys with their long hair. What the hell's wrong with them? My dad said, what do you want to look like that for? I said to him, what do you want to look like you do for? Good wise ass answer. But in 1960 through 71 was when they were at their closest. And they peaked in 1965 in October. These two planets peaked. And this is what gave rise to all these humane things, Virgo things. Now remember, these are really powerful, violent planets and the most tame sign that there is. And I don't mean Virgo tame like it's weak, but Virgo wants to sit on stuff. It doesn't want to scene. It wants things productive. It doesn't want to scene. And recently I've read for so many hundreds of people that have Uranus, Pluto in their chart because they're born around the 60s. These people have been sitting on a volcano all this time until about 2010, 2012, and then they started to come out of it. Because this Uranus and Pluto, which conjuncted at the 18th degree of Virgo, come forward now. Come forward now to approximately 2014. Okay, do you see what has happened? Here they were up here, and all that time in 50 years, Pluto has gone to here, and Uranus has gone all the way to here. This is the opening square. When they were conjunct at the 18th degree of Virgo is when the seed was planted. When they started squaring each other, and these two guys squared each other 7 times during 2013, 2014, etc. 7 times these two squared each other. What do you think happened? Voting rights, black rights, women's rights, all these issues, Medicare, Medicaid. This is why they re-exploded again. Why do you think they were quiet for 50 years? Then they came to the trial period. The opening square is the trial period. Doesn't mean you'll win or lose. It means it's time to try. The test, let's see, is it working? And boy, we got like F's and D minuses on a lot of subjects through those times. It's just now that the Uranus-Pluto is starting to separate a little bit, I believe after those planets are exactly square, there's so much chaos, you can't get much done, let alone a completely ineffective Congress. When the planets start to separate is when you can breathe a little bit and get something done. So I think out of the chaos of all the tests and the trials and the report cards of 2012, 13, 14, we have seen where we have failed with the blacks, and we have failed with the women, and we have failed with voting rights. And look, our election is the biggest fiasco we've ever had. So these things are a test not to our voting system, they're a test to the seed that was planted in 1965, which LBJ picked up on in his subconscious, I believe. In 1965, he tried to implement laws where the common guy got a break. The common guy got a break. Virgo, 6th house, is the house of labor unions, the house of health, the house of the everyday man, the underdogs. And I think as that went on, even LBJ said, I'm not going to run anymore. The seat was just too hot to handle. So all those people that were born with Uranus, Pluto, when they got to 2012, 2013, and they had the square in their chart, they all said to me, well, collectively, they said to me, what have I been behaving for? What did it get me? Why have I been behaving? Why have I been repressing all this energy? Well, number one, they had to survive, but they wanted out. They wanted to start to become who they were instead of what they should do. That's Virgo. Another name for Virgo is should. Do what you should do. Well, they don't want to do what you should do. They wanted to become who they were and express themselves. And you've seen a lot of really great advancement with them. And that's why I wrote the article called Virgo Women Are Doing Wonderful, Beyond Surprise. My number one clients by number, without a doubt, is Virgo women. Not the men, the women. So now we're going through that phase. You see, when you get to Uranus and Pluto, they're still outer planets, but when you get to the other planets in the middle, like Saturn and Jupiter, they're very social planets. So what happened last night? What happened today? What happened today? Saturn changed signs. Whoa, my God. What happened today? Let's go to today. Here's the planets right now, at this second. See how Saturn has just entered Capricorn today. What did I tell you about contrast? What did I tell you about juxtaposition? The same edge that we talked about before. Just like Pluto coming out of Sag into Capricorn, now we're seeing Saturn do it. Saturn has spent 2.5 years, 28 months in the sign of Sag, and this morning it came into Capricorn. And remember, these are 28-month transits. You've all heard of your Saturn returns. You've heard of Saturn transits. So you can see that the sun, which is the moment of winter, the first moment of the solstice, today the sun escorted Saturn into Capricorn. And this is why you're going to start seeing. I was talking to Liza about this today. The last 28 months, since Sagittarius is the lawmaking sign, legislation, that's why we've seen for the last 28 months the country try to get its head wrapped around what laws it needs, especially dealing with the new technology. Now it's time for judgment. We've now got Saturn in Capricorn. The judge is going to make his rules. You've had your time to think about it. You've had your time to put out legislation. Now it's time to make the firm rules. What is Capricorn Saturn? make it work. Make it work. So now you're going to get, and it happened almost exactly when they passed this health bill. So we got 28 months of Saturn going through Capricorn. In about a year, it's going to conjunct Pluto. In about a year, these two will be together. Saturn's a faster moving planet. In about a year, Saturn will be with Pluto, and that's really symbolic of hardship, grave energy. There's almost no way to twist that one positively. It's austere, serious stuff. So it's going to be tough. It also will bring us toughness. Saturn is 28 months in every sign. 28 years all the way around. About 2 years and 4 months per sign. Also, another thing I'll just give you as a note. I think this is a lunar thing, but what I've noticed, you wouldn't believe how many relationships last 28 months. How many people take a job that lasts 28 months. 28 months is a very strong, accurate cycle that's very true in astrology. So if you see something around 23 months of age and it's starting to teeter, keep your eye on it. So now we're in the Saturn and Capricorn time. And it's not Saturn out there kicking your butt. It's Saturn in here. What does that mean? Collectively, even though Saturn's not a real collective planet, it's more of a social planet, we're still feeling it, especially since Pluto's with it. Collectively, we're feeling, I want my life to work. I've had a long time to study it. I've seen a lot of crappy reports. I've seen a lot of good reports. I know what's what, but I want it to work. The jury is back. I'm making these decisions. And I'm seeing it with my clients all over the place. They're making hard decisions. They're facing the facts. This can often have a lot to do with your father, because Saturn is the father image. Were you showing me something, Karen? I thought you were showing me a sign or something. Oh, okay. All right, so Saturn is serious in Capricorn, and we've got to always go back to Jupiter, which is going through Scorpio right now, and try to remain with some levity. Okay, so therefore, when you talk to me about Mercury retrograde, it is so absolutely minor. Yes, it's a pain in the butt. It's this little tiny Mercury that goes around the sun in 9 months, and every 90 days it stops and goes backward for 21, and it goes forward for 90 days, and it goes backward for 21, and it's a pain in the butt, and it's ending tonight. But it's so minor. But the press talks about it all the time. You don't hear about Neptune cycles and Uranian cycles, etc. So to recap what we've been talking about, let me take you back to the map here. All right. Here we are at this moment. Pluto will return at 26 degrees. 2020, it will return. That's where it was in 1776. Since we were a nation, Pluto has gone all the way around, and it's just about to return, which is one reason it's so heavy now. Neptune is every 186 years. The significant thing about Neptune, it's been traveling and bolstered by Virgo, and now they're separating. Another thing that this means, Virgo, being ruled by Chiron, is get it to work, apply it, fix it. Neptune could care less about applying it. You are it. Since these two have separated, since this great spiritual planet has been traveling with Chiron, in the last couple of years, you've had this dual feeling of Get the spiritual growth going and apply it. Now that they're separating, you're starting to feel, in certain ways spiritually, I don't have to apply anything. I might just have fun with this. I might just, Neptune's about no rules and floating with what is. So we're starting to feel a break from this nagging, get something done, be productive, be productive, be productive. We're starting to get a break from that because the Chiron's separating from the Neptune. Now, heads up, buddy. Heads up, because in May, and that's coming, Uranus changes signs. It's been in Aries since May of 2011. It's pretty much clockwork. Every 7 years it changes signs. And when it goes into Taurus in May of 2018, it's going to send shockwaves through all the fixed signs. Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius. Now, it's going to send shockwaves, even though these are the 4 signs that don't deal well with shockwaves. They're pretty thick and strong and stubborn, like molasses. So it might only affect the first few degrees of those signs. But eventually, as Uranus starts to go through Taurus, it's going to really start to shake up these signs. Here's the sign of all signs that can't stand change. Here's the planet that's nothing but change. But we should notice a calming down of some of the Uranian energies because it's been in fiery Aries for 7 years, and it's going to go into Taurus. Taurus is the farmlands, the revenue of a country, how a country is anchored, the wealth of a country. So you might see, as Uranus hits Taurus, you might see an absolute revolution, which is Uranus, of the money system, or the people that have the money. You might see it. It's going to be affecting the Scorpios, it's going to be affecting the Leos and the Aquarians, the 4 fixed signs. So we're in for a lot of picnics here. We got a lot of things coming your way. We got the Pluto return. Eris is right around here. Shirley moves it all. Eris is going to stay here for a long time. And as Uranus separates from Eris, it should calm things down. But we're definitely, with no doubt, are we in the age of Eris and the rise of the feminine. There's no doubt about it. So I am going to say goodbye to our YouTubers and say hello to you guys and turn your microphones on so we can have questions and answers if you like. Thank you for joining us every Thursday night. Appreciate it. So, I know I gave you a lot of stuff. If you would like to unmute yourself, ask a question, make a comment, please do so. Wait a second.